All right, let's jump into it. Um, Good afternoon. Welcome to Agri-Food Conversations, brought to you by iSelect Fund, the Van Trump Report, the Yield Lab Institute, and Family Farms Group. My name is David Yoakum. I'm an associate on the iSelect Fund Ventures team. I'm excited to welcome you to our discussion today. Agri-Food Conversations is all about driving innovation in agriculture. Each month, we highlight a specific theme, including emerging topics such as soil health, plant genetics, vertical farming, and aquaculture, to name a few. This month's theme is indoor farming. And on today's call, we are joined by Kasim Tremblay, Vice President of Business Development at Sollum Technologies. Sollum Technologies offers greenhouse producers the only smart LED lighting solution which dynamically recreates and modulates the full spectrum of the sun's natural light. It increases energy savings, productivity, and quality while contributing to the growth of sustainable, local, and ethical agricultural practices. Each of you knows that companies are more likely to succeed with the right network of customers, talent, investors, and advisors. We've invited you to this call because you're some of the smartest, most talented people in Sollum Technologies market. You're potential customers for Sollum Technologies products and services. You have built a company similar to Sollum Technology, or you're a sophisticated business person or agricultural professional who understands the market and the challenges and opportunities Sollum Technologies may face. Before we get started, we have a quick poll question to get a better idea of who we have on the call today. Please take a few seconds to answer. While that poll is running, a few process comments. We are not soliciting investment. This presentation is to provide information to help Sollum Technologies find customers, mentors, and other strategic relationships that can help them grow their business. You are all on mute. You can use the chat window to ask a question at any time. This presentation is being recorded and will be available for replay. So without further delay, I am pleased to introduce Kasim Tremblay, Vice President of Business Development, Sollum Technologies. Kasim, please take it away.
All right, thank you very much, David. So as David said, Kasim Tremblay, I'm the VP Business Development at Sollum Technologies. So let's get right into it. This quote here from Einstein really summarizes well the philosophy of what we're doing here at Sollum. We're a biomimetic company, so basically we reproduce nature. So our intelligent lighting system is able to reproduce the sun from anywhere on Earth doing natural sun cycles. So sunrises, midday, sunsets, you want it from California, China, Japan, anywhere, and you're able to modify the spectrum within that. So by being a biomimetic company, we're able to basically leverage the evolution of plants for millions of years. So it's really a great start, and we're seeing amazing results from whatever we put under our lighting system right now. So this is why we say here at Sollum that we're led by nature. With today's market trends, we see a great increase in control environment agriculture, and Sollum with its breakthrough technology really comes and answers something that was impossible up to now. I mean, we were able to control all different subsystems in a control environment, but light as of now was really an on-off thing, and we weren't asking ourselves until very recently what kind of spectrum we're giving, what kind of quality of light we're doing. So Sollum started in 2014 with two master students from ETS. They were actually doing a project on characterizing solar panels, and they needed a reliable sun source working at nights, not having availability with natural sun. So they just invented a sunlight, basically. And it really kicked off when Louis Brun joined. Louis Brun is our CEO, very experienced serial entrepreneur, and they found a very good fit with the agricultural market using this light source that reproduces the sun. A few financing rounds later, and recently a major grant from the Sustainable Development Technology Canada, which will allow us to deploy a few acres of greenhouses coming this fall. So behind Sollum, obviously, a very strong ecosystem, family offices, some VC, some institutional investors, but also the government, and a very interesting and very high level network of research centers, who were working into developing new sun recipes, new light strategies to basically adapt our light system and use its flexibility to answer all of the producers' needs. So what really is Sollum and its system? So it's really a multi-channel LED light that has a cloud platform behind it that's able to control these lights. And as I was saying, reproduce the sun from anywhere on Earth. So from one specific geographic position, altitude, time of year, condition of the sky, we're able to just input that in the program, and then the spectrum will adjust dynamically to reproduce the light from that place. And it's not just changing spectrum, it's also dynamically doing the sunrises and sunsets to really reproduce the natural cycles that we receive from nature. So at Sollum, very strong values that really gotten us this far. At the central of this is entrepreneurship. A lot of our employees actually had companies before joining Sollum. And this mentality and this approach really resonated with our clients, since a lot of them are families, multi-generational. They all have this part of entrepreneurship in them. What we're trying to do with our technology is, as David said in the intro, increase sustainability. So having such a rich spectrum and having such flexibility into our lighting system really allows us to get all sorts of produce to grow in the greenhouse environment or vertical farm environment that weren't able to be produced before. Also, we're increasing the lifespan of the fixtures, being LED based, offering a very simple environment. It's a very complex technology, but that is brought in a very simple fashion to the producers, so they're able to use it very easily and then adapt it very easily also. And we're working at the development of these recipes to also increase quality of fruit and vegetables. So we're able to change color, taste, growth, and basically really answering the needs of the producers and making sure we're producing very high quality produce. On the technical side, there's a 40% increase in productivity. We've seen this on fine herbs and leafy greens. We've been testing with one of our clients. So this is very applicable for vertical farming. We decrease energy consumption by 30%, being, yes, a lead-based technology compared to HPS, but also by our innovative control system, which is a dynamic control that adjusts very precisely to ambient natural light conditions in the greenhouse environment. As I said, a longer duration, very durable product, quality of the product, but also quality of the produce we're making. And finally, an unprecedented adjustability in a commercial environment where you can really adapt spectrum photoperiod intensity either to the different crops or also to the different growth cycles. So really optimal growth for the producer for whatever his or her specific objectives are for his crop, her crop. So our unique technology has three major parts to it. So first of all, the fixture itself. So it's an intelligent programmable fixture, multi-channel, as I explained. And it's really the heart of our technology, which allows us to do dynamic changes in intensity and in spectrum to be able to reproduce these natural sun cycles. Another huge part is the Sun as a Service, which is our cloud platform. This is where producers and research centers are able to adjust spectrum, photoperiod, intensity, and also change target intensity As I was saying, this is a fully intelligent system that automatically adjusts itself in spectrum and intensity according to changing light conditions for a greenhouse application. So you saw just before the fixtures we're using in greenhouse, and right now we're developing a fixture that will be usable in a very close range. So that's more relatable for vertical farming. And finally, support. We put it here. It's a key part of our solution because it's a breakthrough technology. There's a ton of options. Producers are able to do a lot with our platform. So it's important that we're able to accompany them in this process and using it and developing their own light recipe. And this is also where our very strong network of research center comes into play, because they have the tools to be able to develop new light strategies and upload them to our platform, so they're able to be shared with producers around the world. A few cases, a few examples. So we've been working a lot with the Chef Garden in Ohio. The Chef Garden has basically 2,000 different produce that they do indoors, outdoors, and we've worked specifically on shortening growth cycles of their leafy greens and salads. So we were able to reduce their cycles by 25%. And right now we're doing new stuff that wasn't done before, very specific coloring recipes to basically change color of red lettuce, texture, taste. Since we're playing with the spectrum, we're able to change chemical composition of different produce. And what that means is changing color, odor, texture, and so on. Another test we've been doing with them is increasing shelf life on radishes. So we dramatically increased shelf life. We even had a batch after 20 days being refrigerated. We're still crisp, still sharp, still sellable at prime value. Another of our partners or clients we're working with is Au Citrus. It's a company here in Laval. The interesting part of this is that they do citrus trees in greenhouses, which is obviously not very common. And when she received, the head grower, when she received our lighting system, we said, okay, where do we start? So we decided to reproduce the sun from the region these trees are native from, which is Kyoto, Japan. So inputted Kyoto, Japan, chose a date, chose a sky condition, and now she's using the spectrum to supplement natural sunlight in her greenhouse. And she's really seeing amazing results, increasing the amount of flowers, deeper colors in her leaves. And this is an ongoing test, so we're really looking forward for numbers on increased yield that coming later this year. I have a little video I want to show you. This is a sunrise, actually. So it's a dynamic increase in intensity, but as you were able to see in the beginning and you'll see at the end, it's also a change in spectrum. So it's, midday spectrum, which is whiter, but then you go towards the end of day spectrum, which is more orange, for example. And it's really, this is an accelerated video, but this would basically happen normally. Where am I? This would normally happen on a longer time during a full photo period. And while you're thinking of your question, this is very close to the end of my presentation, but while you're thinking of your questions, we created an animated video that really summarizes well what we do here at Sollum, summarizes everything I've been saying. So let's take this little minute here to watch that, and I'll be able to answer your questions after this. So yep, that's pretty much the presentation we had, David.
Excellent. Well, Costin, thank you so much. Really impressive work you guys have done so far in a really exciting space and a really unique piece of technology. So really appreciate you guys sharing that with us today. At this time, we have a few minutes for questions from the audience. It looks like we may have one in already. I will read them as they arrive. If any of them cross over or similar questions, I'll try and bundle them into one question creatively. So we'll see how that goes. But the first question from David. Thank you for the overview on Sollum. On slide 15, what proportion of the 30% energy savings comes from the switch to LED, and what proportions of the systems come from your control systems?
Yeah, so from the switch to LED, actually it's over 30%. It's just we don't want to advanced numbers that we don't prove, but you have around 25 to 35% that's actually directly from LED to HPS, and on top of that we have around a 10 to 15% depending on the scenarios you're using for your control unit that you save there. So if we're talking, let's say a year-round 2,400 hours photo period, you would get with HPS, you're around 30% saving with our dynamic control compared to a threshold control you would find normally in the greenhouse industry.
Got it. And appreciate the answer, Cosm. And for any further questions in the for the rest of the presentation, if you could enter those into the Q&A box, that'd be better. There's a couple in the chat window that I'll also answer, but for any future questions, if you could enter those in the Q&A section, that'd be excellent. The next question, what is the retail price of the light?
Yeah, so the retail price right now is not public. It's very project dependent. So we're growing very quickly. Right now, we're very selective on our projects. We're taking projects that are over an acre every time. So that's on the greenhouse side, obviously. And from there, we're kind of still working on our pricing and positioning in the market, but it is very competitive and lower than what you will find in fixed spectrum providers, which is always a big surprise to everyone because people believe, since we have so much technology here, that it's overpriced from anything else, but it's actually cheaper than other fixed price models.
Got it. Excellent. The next question. You indicated that you are looking at vertical farm lighting differently than greenhouses. How much do you think about LED lighting for a container farm, example, freight farms, cubic farms, compared with greenhouses and vertical farms?
So the essence of the question is, do I believe LED is the way to go in vertical farming also, or I'll try to give a general answer of that. Obviously, LED is really going to take over for horticultural lighting, especially in vertical farming, where heat management is even a bigger issue than in greenhouses. You get the energy saving, and you also get the flexibility of the spectrum you want to choose. Now, with Sollum, the particularity is that you don't necessarily need to stress out in choosing the perfect spectrum, which there's 200 manufacturers of LEDs right now in the market telling you this is the best spectrum, this is the best spectrum, and then there's research coming out saying, oh no, this spectrum is good, and so on. So we have a very complete spectrum that represents the sun, and then within that, if you want to do funky stuff and I don't know, shut down a very narrow band, you can do that too. So to kind of wrap up that, we see a lot of value for our solution inside. Also, we already have projects growing fine herbs, growing leafy greens, growing strawberries inside with sole source lighting, which is our lighting, and reproducing sun cycles there with great results.
Thanks, Cosm. The last question we have here, though there may be more that roll in after the fact, from Tom. Have you used your system for photo period manipulation for seed production of any plant species?
For photo period, can you repeat that? Just the last part kind of.
Have you used your system for photoperiod manipulation for seed production of any plant species?
So we've done a trial with a research center here in Quebec on hybridation of some actual field production, and they wanted to cross two different production, and basically they were very satisfied from the first trial they had. Now they're kind of changing their spectrum to be able to do more. Obviously, one big challenge of all the lighting is adjusting other subsystems to make sure it kind of follows that. But yeah, it is possible. And obviously our system has complete flexibility on the photo period. So you can start it when you want, you can shut it down when you want. If you're in an environment where there's actual natural sunlight, then you're basically putting a target, and then the system, if you need 22% intensity, will adjust to exactly 22%. And this adjustment is really a minute-to-minute adjustment, which is way more finite than a lot of stuff on the market. Yeah.
Sure. We do have one more question that's come in. What products benefit the most from adaptable light?
That's a very good question. And that's a question we're kind of answering every day as we're going. Right now, we're yet to find something that does not benefit from natural sun cycles and natural lights. What we saw that benefited a lot of stuff I showed, for example, the chef garden, radishes shelf life increasing by four times was a big one. Reducing cycles is a big one. We're starting peppers in the fall on the vine, so we'll see how that reacts. We've done strawberries that are reacting very, very well. We're even able to modify vitamin C content using different spectrums. So basically, it's a hard question to answer, but there's every day we're kind of learning that new produce is reacting very well to our spectrum, but also the whole natural sun cycle. And we've yet to encounter something that really does not react well to it. And it kind of makes sense. I mean, that's how nature is built, right? I mean, every plant on Earth adapted for millions of years to natural sun cycles. So there's a reason they grow well.
Yeah,
under that kind of light.
It's a good problem to have.
Yes.
I'm not sure,
yes,
but it
absolutely.
seems to be working well.
Oh, it is.
Well, I'll pause here and see if there's any further questions from the audience. But if there are none, the last question I have is for you, Qasim. What would be the most helpful thing for the audience to help you guys out with customers, introductions, advisors, etc.? How can the audience help you today?
Yeah. So obviously we're trying to penetrate different markets where there's for now the focus is a bit on greenhouse, and it's going to progressively also include vertical farming. So any big project is always a big welcome. We like to be around the table for that. We're a startup, almost not a startup anymore, but a technological startup that's always also looking for financing to accelerate our growth. So that's always of interest for us too. So I invite any VC that's interested or family office about our solution to come and contact us. And finally, the last part of this is research centers. So we're working a lot with Agricultural Canada, with a lot of Quebec institutions, the province where we're at. We're interested in research centers across the world. I mean, in the States, if any of them want to have a few of our lights and start, pertinent trials on different produce, like I was explaining, we're kind of discovering this is very beneficial for a lot of different crops, but there's a lot of variety of stuff out there. So any research center that's interested in our solution is of great interest for us also.
Excellent. We actually had two interesting questions come in after the fact, so I'm going to finish up with those two, and then we'll close things off for today. But thanks for given us some insight into where the audience can be helpful. The second to last question is from Louise. Have you done any tests on hemp production for medicinal purposes? If yes, have you had any impacts on CBD production?
That's a great question, and it's a question that comes often because LED is for now very associated to hemp and cannabis. Even being a Canadian company that would come. We're not actually testing right now hemp or cannabis. We're really not close to the idea. It's just we saw a way to differentiate ourselves, and since we're reproducing natural sun cycles, to enter the horticultural markets for vegetables and flowers and all that, and where, to be honest, there's no other major LED producer doing big surfaces. So this is really where we focus our effort and where we're able to differentiate ourselves. So no true answer to that one, but we're really open to start trials in that domain too if the opportunity comes up. Yeah.
Got it. And the last question here from David, are you doing anything with machine learning or artificial intelligence? What type of data are you collecting and what do you do with it?
Yeah, that's also a very good question. So right now, we've had our platform running over a year, close to 2 now, and we're always iterating on that. So we're gathering a bunch of data, a lot about obviously light usage. So photoperiod light usage, intensity, since we're reading a lot of incoming light also, light intensity, greenhouse effects, and for now, their performance reports, consumption, how much natural light you receive versus how much artificial light you receive on your plant, stuff like that. And we know this is going to go eventually into AI and machine learning, but we're more at the stage of gathering a good data set before getting there in, let's say, the next 12 months or so.
Got it. Great. Well, Qasim, we really appreciate your time today. Really fantastic work you guys are doing, and we really appreciate the audience's attendance and participation and your great questions. As you may know, as you're attending, we host these calls for Agri-Food Conversations every Thursday at 3 p.m. Central. You can register for the Agri-Food Conversations webinar series by going to agrifoodconversations.com. And if you know someone who'd like to watch this webinar, feel free to share it with them. A replay of this webinar will be emailed to you in the next 24 hours. And you can share it with somebody directly, or they can go to agrifoodconversations.com. But otherwise, thank you to our audience. Thank you, Qasim, and we will see you next week.
Thank you, David.